All right. Hey guys, so after yesterday's video, I actually went out this morning for my jog, my run, and I kind of live out in the middle of nowhere, and so there's nobody behind me for about, the closest house is about 2,500 yards behind me, and that's through 2,500 yards of pine forest. And so I can kind of walk around with my gear on and stuff and not scare the hell out of the neighbors, which is nice and refreshing. From my previous house was in a gated neighborhood, which that sucked. But yeah, so I was going to go for my run and started thinking about my video I did yesterday, and I said, you know what would it be like if I had all of a sudden shit hits the fan, and I got to grab my truck gun, my sidearm, and just beat feet, get the hell out of Dodge, right? So I was like, all right, let's find out. So I took my pack here that I normally have full of supplies, and since I didn't want to go take everything out of my actual bag, I've got a different one in I think it's an ACU or some such, but it's like the exact same pack basically in a different camouflage pattern. But that has like first aid and some water purifying stuff and some MREs, just real basic stuff to, if I need to get out quickly, I can get out and get my food. But to simulate that weight and kind of go overboard, I put a case of Red Army Standard 7.62 here, 1,000 rounds. I guess it's 2 cases, and strapped my truck gun over my shoulder, guy we looked at yesterday, and I went out there and I hiked about 5.5 miles. I did 3 miles on trails and whatnot, and then that got me thinking, in a bug out situation, I'm not gonna stick to trails all the time. I mean, especially for once it's been established that there's a bug out situation or some kind of calamity taking place, you're gonna want to stay off the beaten path, so to speak, because the last thing you want to do is be ambushed by like highwaymen. Which I don't know if that's a real term anymore, but you get what I'm saying, like bandits, raiders, whatever the hell you want to call them. The kind of people who prey on the weak. So I was like, all right, yeah, let's see what it's like. And I learned some important information. 1,000 rounds, 7.62 sucks to carry in a backpack, especially if you carry for 5 miles. This gun here, actually, I thought it might dig into my back a little bit more. It wasn't bad. I think it has to do with the fact that I try to keep all of my truck guns to have nothing left and right. To keep the same profile as the original gun. I mean, they can't help if there's a charging handle on an AK, it's an AK, but it's, if you look, nothing goes beyond the sides of the receiver wall. I mean, yeah, the adjustment knob on this primary arm's red dot kind of does, but it's not a huge deal. So I was carrying this front sight forward, muzzle down, over my right shoulder, so if I needed to, I kind of swing it up with one hand and engage targets if they were close. I also had my SIG P226 on my hip, with the extended 20-round mag I carry with it, and as a sort of a last second kind of preparation thing, I shoved a loaded 30-round mag in my back pocket, just thinking that in that situation I might not have time to grab my mag carriers and my proper belt, so I just used I think it was an inch and a half leather belt, so nothing special, right? And yeah, it was a good hike. It was freaking exhausting. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but my hat is disgustingly wet. And one thing I also did to make it a little more difficult is I brought my dog with me. And you're thinking that makes it more difficult? Well, no, yes and no, right? So in an escape and evade kind of situation, yeah, because my dog is it's clingy, and that's a good thing, but it's also kind of protective. And so if people it doesn't know get close, it growls and barks, which is a good thing for a guard dog, and it sucks if you're trying to sneak around someplace. And now, mind you, my dog is not one of these gigantic, half Komodo dragon, half grizzly bear dogs you see. You swear the guy mixed a dog with a pony or something. I've got a little dinky foo-foo dog named Peanut. Come here. Because there are a lot of hunters in the area, I always keep this bright orange vest on this dog just to make sure she doesn't get shot and mistaken for a rabbit or some such. But yeah, she's a good dog most of the time, especially for a foo-foo dog, which she kept up on the whole 5-mile hike. She's pretty good about that. I've done a 12-mile hike with her, and actually up a mountain, and she did fine the whole time. But while we were out there, I saw there's a lumberjack company doing some clear cutting, and they gave me an idea, Peanut, just to see how feasible it would be for me to get within like 50 yards of these guys, completely kitted out with, 30, 40 pounds of gear on me, which isn't quiet, mind you. I mean, that stuff rattles around. So, given they had some heavy equipment moving, or operating rather, so that was masking a lot of the sound. But yeah, it was interesting. It was also interesting trying to play shepherd with this little dog trying to protect me, and it's making noises and it's growling and it's trying to warn me of, hey, there's someone over there. And but it was a good hike though, and it's one of those things that I think is really good and important to do with your bug out rifles. I mean, this isn't my dedicated bug out weapon. I think actually AKs are not the best for bugging out, at least in America. But I'll get into that some other day. But yeah, I think it's important to see what it feels like to carry all your gear for an extended amount of time under less than ideal conditions. I mean, the best would have been if it were raining, because where I live right now, it's sandy soil, but a little further away in sort of the low country area, South Carolina, there's a lot of like really thick mud. It's not as bad as Tennessee mud, but it's pretty bad, and it likes to take your boots right off your feet, and that'd be all kinds of suck, but in a good way, Good. It's better to sweat in practice than bleed in combat. But yeah, so other than that, I was doing my normal routine of push-ups and whatnot and pull-ups. What do you guys do to try to get prepared for the so-called apocalypse or whatever? Do you guys actually carry your truck guns? Do you take them out regularly to shoot them a lot, or do you just kind of say, well, I'm familiar with that platform of rifles, so I don't really need to train with that exact rifle? And I get that's a little cocky, but it does kind of make sense. But personally, I want to have more than directly applicable practice. I want to actually practice with the rifle. So for me, I like to take this guy out, let's see, probably like every other week, and put a couple hundred rounds through it, but good dedicated rounds. So not just blasting off ammunition, but a lot of aimed fire, and then using a pack timer. I'll have some rapid engagement targets and run some El Presidentes with it. So I'll have my back to 3 targets. Now, what's really interesting is I'll have my assistant or my wife, whoever, call out the 3 targets in whatever order she calls them in. I have to engage them in, and I really want to do is I want to paint them different colors and give them numbers. So you can call out red or and then switch the numbers around. So you call it 4 or 3 instead of maybe red is normally 1 or whatever. I think that's actually part of an intelligence test, but it makes you think on your feet. And when you're in a situation where you need to employ deadly force or your weapon or some such, it's really hard to think. I know that I've only ever had to even begin to draw my weapon once, and it was incredible to me how hyper-focused I got. I couldn't stop looking at the guy's hands the whole time. I was ready for something just to be in his hands. Thankfully, he had a switchblade, and he dropped it before anything had to happen, and ran. But that's not typical. You know what I mean? I was very fortunate, and I recognize that. But and yeah, I am familiar with the 21-foot drill. He was quite a bit closer than that, so I was trying to put distance between he and I by backing up, extending my arm out, and drawing my sidearm. But that was in a state that, yes, I had a concealed carry weapon or concealed carry license in, but had I had to shoot that guy, he could have been Bin Laden himself, and I probably still would have went to jail. So I'm not going to say what state, but I'm sure you can guess. But yeah, so how about you guys? Do you guys have any training regimens you go through to get yourself prepared for whatever? Or do you practice with your bug out or car rifle, truck gun? Or you just kind of say, well, if I need it, I need it, and I'll deal with those repercussions at that time? Leave me a comment or a video or some such. And hey, and the guy from yesterday, I don't have the thing with me right now to tell me your name, but the guy who had the AK with the M4 style stock who left the video, thanks, that was badass. I like those. I think I said in the comment, my wife loves those M4 style stocks because she's got really short arms. She's a few inches shorter than me, and I'm basically a manlet myself, so I can understand where she's coming from. I'm one of the few guys who actually likes Warsaw length stocks. But yeah, I appreciate you guys stopping by my porch here in South Carolina, and yeah, leave me a comment, whatever. Thanks, guys.